Greetings everyone and welcome back to this mortal coil. Firstly, the obligatory disclaimer. I am not a health practitioner, and I hold no license. What is expressed here is opinion based on independent study and research. For those of you who are not familiar with the ACEs score, allows this to be an informal introduction into what and why it is important in finding the type of trauma you are afflicted with and how much you are at risk for health problems later in life. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experience, and the study that developed it. A group called Kaiser Permanente, the largest managed care consortium in the United States, developed the ACEs study. Between 1995 and 97, in collaboration with the CDC, 17,000 participants were surveyed about their childhood traumatic experiences. The survey included topics such as physical, sexual and emotional abuse, neglect, domestic violence, substance abuse, incarceration, mental illness, and divorce. If you experience one of these events before the age of 18, you got one ACE added to your score. They found that 2/3 of participants had at least one ACE, 87% of those had an additional ACE, 40% had 2 or more ACEs, and 12% had 4 or more. The study spanned all demographics, all education types, and all financial types. Those numbers identify just how common adverse childhood experiences really are. When paired with mental histories, they found a direct correlation to the number of ACEs and the adoption of health risk behaviors, such as drug abuse, obesity, promiscuity, depression, heart disease, cancer, shortened lifespan, and suicide. Compared to an ACE score of 0, a person with 4 or more ACEs has 700% increased chance of alcoholism, and a person with 6 or more has a 3,000% increased chance to commit suicide. Now that you are familiar with the facts, let us try to understand why the increase in health risks are so prevalent in those with higher ACEs scores. It has been proven that the effects of childhood trauma can alter the structural development of neural networks and the biochemistry of the brain. These stressors can have long-term effects on the body as well, causing one to age prematurely and compromise the immune system. Our body knows when we experience trauma. The acute stress response kicks in, also known as fight, flight, or freeze response. Your body suddenly releases hormones and the nervous system stimulates the adrenal glands that raises your heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing. This process takes seconds to activate and about an hour for your body to return to normal. While this response is highly beneficial to us when we are in survival mode, say like when we were about to get eaten by a wild animal, or get into a car crash, though activated on a constant basis and at an early age, causes severe mental and physical health problems. Imagine a child who's experiencing multiple forms of abuse at home. Parents are alcoholics, brother or sister is sexually abusive, there are bullies at school that constantly pick fights with them. Multiple times per day, every day, the acute stress response kicks in, at home and at school. Everywhere this child is supposed to feel safe, they are constantly in survival mode. This constant release of adrenaline and hormones causes their bodies and brains to slow development, as it has to use calories and energy to fuel the body for survival instead of for growth and development. In addition, those suffering with PTSD when triggered, these fight, flight, or freeze moments will happen anytime, causing one to relive the same psychological state as if they are occurring right in front of them. Regardless of if this event is happening as a flashback, their mind cannot tell the difference, and the same acute stress response kicks in just as severe as if it were the real thing. After years of anxiety disorder, PTSD, depression, thoughts of suicide, drug abuse, the body and the mind begin deteriorating rapidly, causing all of the negative side effects discussed before. When not treated properly, these side effects could very well mean an early grave for some of us, instead of a rich, full, and rewarding life. In contrast to the ACEs score is your resilience score. In my opinion, this score separates the survivors from victims. In my previous video, I discussed the mechanisms of trauma and how to understand the basic nature of it. How resilient we are takes a look at what influencers and positive reinforcement we have had in our lives to counterbalance the negative side effects of trauma, and determines how likely we are to establish coping mechanisms, or sword and armor, if you will. In the 1950s and 60s, there was a study done by a man named Harry Harlow Harry Harlow essentially took a bunch of rhesus monkeys, stuck them in wire cages, and tortured them with loud, frightening objects in order to study the importance of motherly love on child development. One group was provided no comfort, while the other group was given a surrogate mother, which was simply a terry cloth attached to a wire post that simulated the nurturing aspect of a mother. The results of this experiment was that the nothing group, when introduced back into social settings, displayed a highly disturbing behavior. It would circle the pen, cause violence to the other monkeys, inflict harm to itself, and in some cases, starve to death. The terry cloth monkeys performed far better, adjusted more easily to social settings, and appeared more active, thus proving that nurturing and stability is essential to healthy brain and social development. Now this is where your resilience score comes in. After taking the ACEs score, take the time to do your resilience score as well, and reflect on it. What influences did you have in your life that helped you through the bad times? Was it a parent, grandparent, friend, teacher, significant other, perhaps a neighbor? Whomever it was, they were your terry cloth, your stability and guide. They showed you the light at the end of the tunnel, and that there was something more than just darkness and trauma. One of the key reasons why soldiers rotating back into civilian life after seeing combat have such a difficult time adjusting is the same for those poor rhesus monkeys. They had no terry cloth. They had nothing or no one to show them that there was anything different from what they were experiencing at that moment. The same goes for kidnapping victims, forcefully held by their captors for years. Nothing is there outside of their trauma to show them anything other than the psychological horror film they live day in and day out. However, there are those that do come out okay, and we call them survivors. Why is that? Is it because they are lucky to be alive? Sure, but more than that, they were able to overcome, learn, adapt, and grow from their experience. And then their experience and growth fueled a passion to help others that suffer as they did. That is a transformation of epic proportions. I feel that every one of us is capable of such transformation. It takes but an understanding and the will to thrive. No problem is bigger than you, and no pain is too great to overcome. As we begin to learn more about ourselves, our experience with trauma, and discover what ails us, we begin to see a reflection of what we are to the outside world. How we react, how we think, and how we treat others is a mirror image of our own souls, as within, so without. Those of you who found this channel, it is not coincidence. You are beginning to wake up to the possibility that you are not your past. Your past doesn't decide your future. And however out of control you may have felt when bad things happen to you, you are in control of your present here and now, and you are absolutely in control of your future. Please like, comment, subscribe, share your stories, or simply share this with others that could benefit from this. Only together can we find a cure for this disease. Thank you for listening.